Okay, sixth grade, we're now doing Unit 2, Lesson 2, Analyzing If. So we're being introduced a new poem, um, If. I'm going to read aloud and you need to follow along and we'll go over what the lesson's about. If you could keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired of waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make your dreams your master, if you can think and not make your thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. So, what is this poem mostly about? So, whenever we deal with poems, um, it's kind of difficult to know what they mean the first time we read them. So we're going to break this down stanza by stanza, but this asking, since we read it as a whole, what it means is um, poetry usually has rhythm. It doesn't necessarily. It's definitely not how everyday people speak. So in poetry, ideas are organized into stanzas, what we would probably call in an essay a paragraph, but in poetry it would be called a stanza. The language in poetry tends to be more descriptive, so they're describing things. They're using words to paint a mental picture to convey a certain message that they're saying. So then now that we have read the poem, what makes a poem different from a story? Okay, like I just said, a poem is not the way, when we use poetry, that's not how people talk. When we read the story, Bud Not Buddy, we can understand and relate almost immediately to what he's saying. In a poem, it just takes a little bit more um, closer understanding. You would have to read it. Oh, I mean, people are still analyzing a lot of poems and they still don't entirely know what poems mean. So it's not a language that we normally always speak. Okay? And now that we've had it read aloud, how is it read different from a story? Again, that there's a rhythm. It's like a song without music because the rhythm helps to convey the meaning. Um, why is it important to read poetry closely? It's important to read poetry closely because every word counts. Every word has a meaning to it. Each one has been chosen carefully to present that meaning to you. So they need to be read very carefully and they need to analyze the word choice carefully to understand the meaning of how it was meant, how they meant it. And like I said, even years after somebody like Shakespeare's poetry, people are still arguing and in disagreement about what he meant by certain words. And unless you can actually talk to the author which in a lot of cases you can't, you have to read poetry very carefully. So that is the difference between poetry and a story.